events of the triggers, right? So we talked about different events which are before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. Right. So this is what these are all the events that we have for the trigger. So this is one thing that we understand. Now we are going to talk about a few methods of the trigger. Okay, so there are certain default methods. One, we can definitely define other methods, but there are certain default methods. One of those I think we used in our last trigger also, trigger.new. So trigger.new basically is a method that returns the record in context in case of a insert or update operation. Okay, so when an insert operation is happening, the record which is there in the context which is being inserted, that is returned by this method trigger.new. Okay. Then we talk about trigger.old. This is the record in context in case of a delete or update operation. Okay, so when some record is being deleted, if you are writing a trigger for a delete operation, then the record which is getting deleted is referred to as trigger.old. So that is returned, that record is returned using this method trigger.old. Alright. And if you see, update operation is applicable for both trigger.new, trigger.old, because update is an operation where you will have both the things. Trigger.new is the new value after update. Trigger.old is the value of the record before update. Got it? So in update operation, in insert, what is happening? Something which was not in the database, that comes into the database. In delete, something which is there in the database is getting deleted. But in update, we have both the scenarios, right? So one is before update and after update. So before update value is the trigger.old, and the after update value becomes trigger.new. So in case of update operation, you have both trigger.new, trigger.old. Then we have a few more methods, something like trigger.is insert, is update, is delete, is undelete, right? So this is insert, this is a Boolean method, it returns true if it is an insert operation. And same way, trigger.isUpdate returns true if that's an update operation, if there is an update happening on that trigger. Trigger.isDelete returns true if it's a delete operation happening or if there is an undelete operation happening. Okay, there are two more. Trigger.is before and trigger dot is after, right? So trigger dot is before will return true if it's a before trigger operation. So it can be before, when I say it can be anything, before insert, before update, before delete. Trigger dot after is after returns true if it is any of the after triggers, trigger events. Got it? So that is it. These are few methods. So let's again go back and start doing one or two more examples on the triggers. Alright, so I think we created a trigger as well. Let me just go back. We created some trigger for opportunity. Okay. Okay. So we have the triggers that we created in the last session. All right. So there is this before insert trigger that we did, right? Let's go and modify this trigger. Okay, so what does this trigger say? That if the opportunity amount is less than 20,000, throw an error, right? Now, if you try to enter an opportunity with 20,000 amount or less than 20,000, then it will throw an error, right? That is what it says, and which is working also. Now look at the code and tell me one thing. If I plan to do an update, if I am updating an opportunity and the value of the amount is less than 20,000, will it still throw an error? If I'm doing an update operation.
No. But this is an insert, right?
Yes. So during update it is not going to throw error, right? So this is also one, small difference between a trigger and a validation rule. I think you were asking the other day validation rule thing. So this
Yeah.
is also a small difference between the trigger and validation rule. That validation rule is always applicable on any sort of DML happening, insert or update. But trigger is something which you can control on which event, before insert, before update, after update. So there are so many things that you can control, right? So what we're going to do, this is not applicable on update operation. So for update, you can go and put whatever amount, there is no restriction on that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, my company has a different requirement. They say that if the new record is being inserted, it should be minimum 20,000. If an existing record is being, new record is being created, it should be minimum 20,000. For an existing record, it should be minimum 10,000. Okay, for update. So we are going to do that thing here now.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Sorry. I was off the desk for a minute. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it's something. Okay,
No, no.
that's fine.
Okay. So in this case, what we are going to do, we are going to put two different conditions, one for insert, one for update. Okay. And we are going to use this method, is before is update. Is insert is update. So I want this trigger to get executed on both the events, trigger before insert, before update. All right. But for both the cases, I want to put different logics. I want my trigger to go and take different, check different criteria. All right. So what I'll do is I'll just say for opportunity O equals to this, if trigger dot is insert and O dot amount is less than 10,000, then throw error. Fine. So if it's an insert operation which is happening and the amount is less than 20,000, I wanted to throw error. Else if trigger dot is update and O dot amount is less than 10,000, then throw an error. Got it? So in this, what we are doing, we are defining two different conditions or criteria for these two different triggers. Or two different operations. So please put an amount greater than 20,000. For update operation, it will check if the amount is at least 10,000 or not, and it will put that sort of thing. Right curly bracket, so we need it here. Alright. Now if you try to update an opportunity, existing one, then it will check it for minimum 10,000. And if we are talking about creating a new opportunity, then it will be checked for 20,000. Update operation will be checked for 10,000. So if I am trying to update an opportunity, existing one, and if I put an amount less than 10,000, let's say 8,000, please put an amount greater than 10,000, right? So it's a different error for update and different error for the insert thing, right? So that is something which can be done. So all these methods that I talked about here, trigger.isInsert, this is how these can be used. We saw that, right? So while you're defining condition, you can put this Boolean condition there. So if it returns true, you can do something else, right? So this way, using this, what we can do is we can define trigger, or we can define actions for different stages. What happens if it's an insert operation, what happens before the record inserted, what happens after the record inserted. These methods will allow us to do multiple things on the same trigger. So you don't have to always go and write a different trigger for everything. So you can include multiple events here while you're writing the trigger, the way we have done it here. And then using this trigger.isInsert, trigger.isUpdate, you can define what needs to be done at each stage. Correct?
So we don't define anything separately.
No, you don't have to. When you say separately, what do you mean?
Like suppose if there is some other logic, so can I include here itself?
Yeah, so see, there are two things, okay? Either your other logic is also, being executed on the same event. There are two things here. One is event, one is logic. So what logic needs to be executed when it needs to be executed, right? So if this other logic also needs to be executed on the same event, then definitely it has to be a part of this trigger only. If it's at a different event, then also you can include it here. Like I have a different logic. So I could have actually written one more trigger for it, but that is not required. I can include that event here, and with this trigger.isUpdate and these kind of Boolean methods, what we can do is we can easily execute multiple logics on under the same trigger, so that our things are also kept checked, and we do not have to write too many triggers for the same thing.
Okay. And also, like, can I use any formulas here?
You can use complete effect code, whatever you have. Formula as in what you want to do, plus, minus, whatever. So Apex, whatever is possible, that is possible here also. Like if you want to make O2 O dot amount into 2 or anything, whatever formula you want to put, you can. Not a problem. Fine. Okay. So now this is one way of writing trigger. So there is nothing different that we do in a trigger. So this is just this is the only thing that we have to understand. I'm going to do one more example where we will write the trigger method, the method that needs to be executed. I will write that on a class, and then I will call the class here. Okay, so we'll do one more example, and in that we are going to write the trigger logic on the class. Okay, and then we'll call the class. Okay, so we'll do a little more complex example for understanding that part. Okay. Okay, so first of all we should start writing the class. Okay. Let me give it a different name. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to write the method that you want to execute on the trigger. Ultimately, that is what we have to do, right? So that should be a void method, should not return anything, it should just execute some logic. So this is my method. In this I am defining a parameter, a list of opportunities. Okay, now whatever I'm assuming that I will use this trigger for opportunity. Okay, so while you are writing a method in the class, you should define a parameter, right, of a list of S object of the same object. Why? Because you need to call it as trigger.new or trigger.old in the trigger. So this is what we will be passing from our side. Trigger.new, the list of records, is something which we are going to pass from our side, right? So we will define a parameter here for this method. So while you write it on the, while you call this method on your trigger, you will call it like this. Of trigger dot of check trigger dot new. Okay, so this is where I am passing the value for this parameter. So I need to define this parameter, because trigger.new is something which will come from trigger only. It cannot come in the class, so I cannot define that part here. I can only do, what I can do is I can just define a parameter for that and keep it. Okay, so that's what we are going to do now. Okay, so I'll tell you exactly what we are going to do with this example. Let's say you have a logic that any given user on a given day cannot create opportunities more than a certain amount. Let's say user, this can be anything. I mean, I'm just taking the example of opportunity since we are working on it. But let's say has a daily limit of creating opportunities worth 1 million. Let's say he cannot create opportunities more than 1 million in a given day, right? So that 1 million he can achieve in one transaction or one opportunity, or if he creates 100 opportunities, 50 opportunities, till the time he has not exceeded his daily limit as the sum of all the opportunities that he has created on that day, it should not be a problem. But the moment he exceeds that 1 million, including the opportunity that is going to create, the system should not allow him to create that opportunity. Got it? So across all the opportunities that a user creates on a day, the sum should not exceed 1 million. So that is the simple logic that we have.
So you mean the number of records or like amount?
Amount.
Okay.
Right. So we can put it on the number of records also, that okay fine, a user should not be able to create more than certain number of records. So here we are going to deal with the amount thing. Okay. So now in this case, first of all, let us understand the logic. We are talking about that one person should not be allowed to create opportunities more than worth 1 million in a day. So here we need to consider two things. Before we start considering the trigger.new record, the record in context, we also need to consider already the records which are into the database, which he has already created, right? So in this thing we have two things to be considered. One, first of all, we need to go and check all the existing records which have been created by the same user on the same date, do a sum of that, and then add to that the current or the record in context amount of the record which is in context, so that we can do a sum and understand whether we are exceeding that 1 million or not. If you are exceeding 1 million, then it should throw error. If you are not exceeding 1 million, it will not throw error. Correct? So that is what we will do. So as I told you, it will have two parts. First of all, we will do a sum of all the existing records, which is pretty simple. For opportunity one, select amount from opportunity where created by ID and created date equals today. Close this. All right. So first of all, I'll go and check all the records where the created by ID, the person who has created those opportunities is the same current user, and created date is today. Okay, and I will add them all. Okay, write it a double. Okay. Equals 0. So I've defined a variable total amount which is initially 0, and in this for loop it keeps on adding the O1 dot amount to this total amount, and it keeps on increasing. Alright, so end of this for loop, all the records which have been created by the current user on today's date, they will get added to this total amount, right? So one part of it is done. Alright, so first part of my method is done, where I define that go ahead and check all the existing records and add them all to the same total amount thing. That part is done. Second is,
One question.
yeah.
Why there is no curly braces next to today, the regular braces?
So here we don't need that. Uh, yeah. So this is basically in Apex today. It's not a part of the syntax here. We can straight away write today. I think for Excel functions and all, after today we have a curly brackets also, right? So it's not there in this. We can straight away write today. Okay. Now I need to get into the second part, right? What is the second part? The record which is being inserted, right? And from where does that come? That comes from here, OPS, right? This is the parameter that I'm saying, and this is where I'm going to define trigger.new. So now in the second for loop, I'm going to consider all the records from OPS. Sorry. Opportunity O2. OPS. So here we don't have to do anything. Here we will simply go and say the same line. But this time it will be O2.element. Right. So in the second for loop, I add the trigger.new records amount to this O2.amount. And this is where I should check my error also. If total amount is greater than 1, then O2.add error. You say you have exceeded your daily limit. Okay. So this is what we have done. So in this case, because this OPS is a trigger.new, so every record I need to check this criteria. I need to add it to the total amount, and after adding, before the insert thing can happen, I need to check this criteria that if the amount is exceeding this. If it is exceeding, then throw the error. Okay, so that is it. Now we don't have to do anything, we just have to copy this part, go to the trigger and define this trigger. So how will we create the trigger? Go to setup, customize, opportunities, triggers, create a new trigger. So here, as I told you, we don't have to write too many things, we just need that one line. That's it. Event will be before insert. That's it. So now we start creating an opportunity.
What happened? Why it thrown error before?
The spelling mistake. I was not copying the correct spelling. Okay, now if I create opportunities here, so I create OP123, amount I put 200,000. So when I put 200,000 as amount, it would throw error? No. Okay, got created. This time I will put 400,000. So it throw error this time? No. Because 200 plus 400 makes it 600. So still it's not exceeding 1 million. So this also gets created. Okay. Now if I try to put 500,000 now, then it becomes more than a million, right? Already we have created opportunity. I mean, this current user has created opportunity worth 600,000. Now this one is 50,000. So this should throw error. See, does not allow. You have exceeded your daily limit. Got it? So this is how it works. This is how the trigger works. Clear? Let me know if you have any questions or doubts here.
No.
Simple, right? So now,
It looks good.
and you know the other difference between a validation rule and trigger is this also, that using trigger, so basically primarily using trigger you can do whatever you want, but small difference that we can see here is, in a trigger you can compare multiple records. Validation rule, the criteria can only be put on the record in context. Here what I am doing, I am comparing, or I am putting criteria on the existing records as well. Got that? So that is something which can be done using a trigger, but validation rule does not allow us to do that. So that is how it is. Right. So that's about triggers. I mean, we have seen how we can actually write a trigger on a class, or how can we write a method and call that method here on the trigger itself, or we can write the logics directly here on the trigger, right? So I think you can go back, practice on this. Will not do any new thing today. Tomorrow once we meet, we are going to start talking about some more ways of invoking Apex. So we have already seen we can call Apex using Visual Force page. We have seen we can call Apex on using triggers. So there are a few more ways of calling an Apex. So we are going to talk about that in tomorrow's session. Right? So we meet tomorrow same time and we discuss about that.
Sure.
All right.
Like, can you send this for
The
actual class?
I'll just send it to you. And you want me to send the earlier trigger also, that T1 before insert and all?
No, that I already created. Only just that class.
Okay, I'll just copy and send it. Through an email I'll send it, is that fine, or you want me to just put it in the chat window?
That is also fine. Put it in the chat and then just copy.
Send it in the chat.
Oh.
Shall I mail it to you?
Yeah, I think that's better. This looks so ugly.
Just give me 1 minute.